Alrighty, folks, we are live. It is another weekly live stream show, the Get Noticed with Video episode. I don't know what number this is. I've got to get myself organized and put these numbers in place. We'll do that now that 2020 is halfway over. So I want to welcome you if this is your first time. Welcome, welcome. I hope that you'll enjoy the show. Will last about 20 to 30 minutes at the most, but today's topic is going to be a continuation of a topic that we started talking about last week. So, I decided to talk last week a little bit about creating a virtual video studio. This week, I wanted to share with you a little bit about the behind the scenes. So, last week was more about what shows up in the camera and what people see. This week, we're going to talk about what they don't see, but you see and you know in terms of your setup for your video studio. So, hello, it's so wonderful to see you, Miss Pat. Thank you so much for the testimonial video. I'm so proud and I can't wait to hear more. You know what I'm looking for. All right, we're going to go ahead and do our short intro video just to give people a chance to jump on, and then we will dive into this question that we're going to answer. And the question is, how do I organize what's behind the video studio? How do I organize what people don't see? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Good evening, Stacy. All of my favorite people are showing up, and we're gonna give people a little bit more time to come on in by showing our quick intro video, and then I'll be right back. And I promise we're gonna dive right in. So for those of you who are joining me, you're either joining from Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. Feel free to leave a comment and let me know you're here so I can acknowledge you personally because I love the interaction. All right, here we go. All right, folks, welcome back again. This is Tanya Smith of Get Noticed with Video at getnoticedwithvideo.com. So there's a lot that's happening right now in the space of video, and part of it is that things got fast forwarded. I think we were already heading in this direction anyway, but with COVID and quarantine and all those other things that we don't like to talk about, it kind of jazzed up the need for people to use more video, right? So what we're finding is that more and more people have questions about how to get started. How do I get set up? What should I be using in terms of equipment and all these other different things, right? So I like spending my time talking to especially service providers, so coaches, trainers, speakers, authors, helping you to leverage more on camera and live video to build your social influence. So when I give these tips, I like to give them in a really practical way so that you know, look, if I could do this, if I could set things up, if I could get moving with video and really just grow my business by leaps and bounds the last year, you can too. So I want to go ahead and acknowledge a couple of people that I know are showing up for me. There's Natalia. Yes, 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 ma'am. And Erica. First live event. Are you kidding me? I thought you've been here. If you feel like family already, Erica, started using the intro videos. Awesome. So I'll have to hear how that's going for you too, Stacy. I want to hear more. All right, folks, we're going to dive into the topic. And here's today's topic. We're focused on, like I said, a continuation of what we started last week. So last week we were talking about how to set up your own virtual video studio, and we were giving you some pros and cons, especially because of the fact that a lot more people are using green screens and virtual backgrounds. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that if you're going to use a green screen, if you're using a virtual background, such as in Zoom, because a lot of people are using Zoom now, what you want to make sure of is that it still gives you that credibility, that professional look. It doesn't look like you're the floating tube balloon, which sometimes happens if you're not using a true green screen. So definitely watch last week's episode if you need a little bit more information about that. And yes, ma'am, I feel like family too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the physical studio. And I started this conversation last week. Seemed to get a lot of folks that were interested in knowing more about how, I guess, the thought process behind setting that up, right? Because here's the thing to keep in mind as I kind of share these tips. These are tips and things that work for me. And so your job is to figure out what applies best for you, for your situation, and experiment. See what's going to work for you because
Mhm.
not everything that everybody does is right for everybody, right? Okay, so I shared with you last week that one of the reasons why I wanted to start my own studio or create my own video studio is I really wanted the comfort level of being able to run in the door or walk into the area where I record and not have to worry about setting up the green screen or finding a virtual background that I wanted and all of that, right? So I'm going to give you 3 tips for things that you need to consider. And I am going to pull up my slide deck in just a second to keep us organized and on time. But I will take questions. So if you have questions as we go, I'll be scanning through the comments wherever you're listening or watching from, and I'll
Mhm.
make sure I try to answer those before we get off. Now, if I miss your question or you're watching replay, if you're watching replay, type in hashtag replay right now so that I can kind of get a feel for later on who's watching. And I'll try to answer your questions at that time too if I miss you live. All right. So, the reason why it matters what you do behind the scenes is because the way you set yourself up in the background for your videos can set your mood. What we talked about last week was how to set the mood and to give people an impression, a perception of you using the scenery that you created for them to see. But what they can't see and you can create or set a deal breaking moment for you, or it can put you in a really good place. And that shows up well on video when you're in a good place. So I want you to make sure that you're as organized as you can possibly be. Some of us really just live in organized chaos. And if that works for you, that's absolutely fine. I am a recovering type A. So, so I find myself saying things like, I can't exercise in that room because it's too junky. Like I tell my kids, it's their fault because they have stuff, they have clothes hanging all over the room. That's why I can't do my exercise. I know that's kind of a really lame excuse, but think about it. If you look at your desk and you look at your space and it's all cluttered, sometimes that's a reflection of what's going on mentally for you. And if you're all cluttered inside and your desk space and everything else is cluttered, it's less likely that you're going to be at your best when you're doing your video, when you're showing up on camera. So, one of the reasons why I really wanted to kind of share this video as I was thinking about topics for this week is I thought, you know what? I've shown you the outer, but I need to give you a little bit more of the inner. I need to talk about the thought process that I have as I'm setting up the space to do these recordings. Okay. So let's go ahead and pull up our screen. And while we're doing that, I'm going to say hello. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. This is my wellness coach and advisor. Even though he doesn't know it, I check you out. Donna, good evening, ma'am. Connie, good to see you. Good to see you. I love the avatar. I still haven't gotten my avatar yet. I don't know where that thing is. Yes, you're so very welcome, my buddy Anthony Jones. And then Crystal, I just want to acknowledge each and every one of you and tell you thank you so much for showing up live. Again, if you've got questions, then holler at me. I'm going to go ahead and showcase my, let's make sure we pull that down. Showcase my screen because we're going to walk through some things here. So this is my advice to you. I'm going to break it down and then I'll get into detail, but the 3 things to consider when you're thinking about what's going on behind the scene with your video studio are purpose, budget, and existing resources. So purpose, budget, and existing resources. And so let me kind of talk a little bit about that. First of all, as we're considering the purpose, right? So for me, when I was thinking through creating this video studio, I really, really kind of had been thinking about it for a while, for a few months, but as we got into this whole quarantine setting, what I realized is that I needed to move my space because my husband was home, and he's usually not. He's usually traveling the world. So so he was home, both kids were home from school, and so everybody was in the house, including our 3 boys, our 3 dogs. So that means there's a lot more activity consistently, there's a lot more noise level, there's a lot of other things that need to be controlled that previously weren't in effect. And so one of the things I knew is that I would have to recreate the space where I would do my recordings because the situation and the environment required that, right? So here's what I did. Remember, I talked about purpose. So that was part of my purpose is that I wanted to create a new space where I could actually do not only my recordings, but also do work. So I needed to have kind of a combo effect. So you're going to want to think about as you're creating your studio, what will you use that space for? Are you going to use it exclusively for your recordings? Or are you going to have a need, like I did, to make it kind of have a combination effect? Because I needed the space for working as well as the video studio, right? So I started looking around, and here's where the budget thing comes in. And I found, I'm going to show it to you real quick if I can pull it up. I found this handy little thing right here. Let's pull it. It was a convenience concept no tools desk. Okay. And I actually found this desk rather, right before everything hit, right before we ended up going into quarantine. The thing I was looking for, again, keep in mind purpose. Purpose and budget were the first two of the three things I mentioned. So I knew that I needed to move my space and give them that office space, give them that desk and the other monitor. I was looking for a desk that I could use that would allow me to do both things. And if you notice in this picture, this particular desk says no tools. I didn't want to have to rely on anybody else to fix it or to put it together. I just wanted to be able to put it together quickly. And the other thing that I noticed about this particular one, and I'll pull it up so you can really kind of see it right there. The other thing that was cool about it is that it had a lot of open spaces and shelves. So that was important because I knew that given the type of equipment and things that I use for my video studio, and when I'm writing and doing work, that I would need that room to be able to be really flexible. So this particular desk was dirt cheap at the time. It was 59 bucks, which was awesome. Now I will tell you, because everything is being price gouged, I think it's up to about $230. And this is not a super expensive desk. It's a cheap desk, but it sits well. It gave me exactly the room that I needed. It allowed me to have those different areas so that I could connect things, which is going to be important in a second when I show you something else. But it gave me exactly what I needed and it was inexpensive. So I'm sharing my thought process with you so you can start thinking for yourself about creating your own studio, right? And how this needs to work for you from a purpose standpoint as well as from an affordable or budget standpoint. That third thing, the resources, is that you always, and please hear my heart on this, I say it all the time to all of my clients. Don't go out and start buying a bunch of expensive stuff to do videos. You literally can do with what you have until you're ready for the next level. And you'll know when you're ready, right? So I didn't need to buy an expensive desk. I just needed this one. I have an expensive desk in the other office, but I had to give that up. I needed something that would be uh, functional. And so this did that. All right. The next thing I did is I looked at the different accessories. And so we talked about again last week a little bit about this in that you want to find accessories that are going to boost your confidence, give you energy, um, help you to get prepared for the moment when you go live so that you look and you sound at your best, you feel good, right? And so I as I mentioned last week, again, you can watch that one. Surrounded myself with things, with knickknacks, as my grandmother used to call them, that made me happy, that made me feel good, right? I've been a collector of Wonder Woman gear since I was a kid, since I was a child. And so just finding some of the things that I already had in my collection closet, if you will, and putting that into my space gave me that enthusiasm about having the space. Making sure that I have all my equipment set up and ready to go. So I used to switch out my cameras. So I'd have my DSLR, which I use a Canon, by the way, on one tripod. And then I would switch that out with the C922 Pro. Instead, I decided why not just have them both set up. My daughter would often switch out my tripod because she likes to do YouTube videos, and she was using it for homework. So one of my daughters actually does those pretty frequently. So I decided to go ahead and get her own tripod, and that way I could have both of these set up and ready to go when I'm ready, right? So it's about creating ease and simplicity so that you have no blocks, no obstacles that you're creating for yourself to do that live video. And then I had a quote that would help me to really just kind of lift my spirits. It's one of my favorite quotes that I use often. So this is my actual desk setup, and I'll kind of walk you through a couple of things that are here because I think this is kind of key in terms of thinking about purpose, budget, and resources. So let me blow this up a little bit more so you can see it. Yes, I must have order and organization too, Jackie. I know not everybody's there with us. I know. So this is for my people who are trying to get there and for my people who do love the organization. I mean, it's just me. It's where I am. Did you see the DSLR mounted to the ring light? Yes, you do. You sure do. So it's in the middle of the ring light right now, and I'm actually using this. And another thing, Anthony, that I'm actually doing instead of just relying on the battery itself, and I'll have to do a separate video on this, but I have it hooked up to a charger so that it doesn't die on me while we're doing the live. So we'll talk about that in another episode. So OCD. I know so many of us are. Yes. And there's my buddy Araceli. All right. So let me walk you through a little bit about what's going on in this scene, right? Because this is my desktop so that you can kind of see what it looks like. Blow it up a little bit there. So over on the right, the far right, this is my crystal salt lamp. And the reason I have this, I've always had a crystal salt lamp because at least from what I've read and researched, it's really helpful when you have all of these different electronics going on. They're emitting certain signals. So allegedly, the crystal salt lamp helps with that. And it does give me a little bit more of calm, of sense of calm, right? So I like it. And I added a little pink bulb in there instead of just having the regular light bulb. This right here is my microphone that I usually use. So this is my my Yeti microphone that I use. This little thing that you see here on the desk, I'm going to show you a close up of in a few minutes, but I'm sharing with you kind of how I've organized the space. So when I'm working, I will move the laptop out of the way and I'll also move the mouse out of the way. And I probably won't have my cup right there. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll have it on the shelf over here. You see my cameras are already set up. And yes, there's a question. I have a new DSLR and have no idea how to set it up for live streams. Yes. So we need to do a video on that. So I'll make sure to mark that down. Yes, I do have a DSLR camera in addition to my Logitech because honestly, my Logitech is very reliable and I can use that when I'm doing more like training and don't necessarily need the high quality of the DSLR. Because the C922 works just as well for me. It just has a slight difference in quality. And frankly, if you're using a third party service like StreamYard, you're probably going to have a little bit of a diminishing of your quality anyway, because it only goes up to 720 instead of 1080. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube and you're like, this isn't 1080, no, it's not, because it's a StreamYard event. All right. So the other thing that I have over here on the left, you'll see is my actual monitor. So I have two monitors. We can talk about that as well at another time, but just to kind of give you a highlight, the big thing here is my husband actually bought me another monitor because he's like, "You have maturing eyes and you need that." And it's the best thing he could ever have done because I absolutely let me show you my face on this because I want you to see how much I love, love, love my big monitor. I don't have to squint, and it's great for when you're sharing your screen because then you don't end up showing things that you don't intend to show. So everything that I'm going to share is going to be on screen 2, my big monitor, versus on screen 1, which is where I'm controlling everything about my video, right? So I've got 2 screens. So this is just I'm sharing this with you so you can kind of get a feel for the setup and how I've organized this. So yeah, laugh on the monitor. I know. It's pretty hilarious, but it's true. All right, here we go. So let's look at this. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. Yes, Erica purchased she got a ring light just for video conferences because it's too dark. It's absolutely, I won't say imperative, but I'll say that a ring light really does make a difference. It makes a world of difference for you. Whether you're using that or you're using like the umbrella kits, which also are great, but you definitely want to look at making sure that you clean up any shadows when you're doing conferences or live and you want that professional look. Love huge monitors. I do too. Yes, yes, yes. So let me show you what this is so that you kind of get an understanding of why I'm even showing it. So again, organizing your space and making sure that you feel comfortable and you feel like, hey, I'm ready for my live. Like you're creating no mental blocks for yourself to get on your video and to just go, right? So this was something that was bugging the heck out of me. I hate seeing all these different wires and connectors and things, and I knew that I needed them because I needed one for the mic, needed needed wires and chargers for the different monitors, for the cameras, for everything else, right? So that little handy device right here was something that I found on Amazon as well. If you need the resources, I'll try to make sure I include them either in the comments here or I'll definitely include them in the blog post that I'll convert from this live video within the next couple of days. But this Lention connector is a USB-C connector, so it can go with like a Mac. I use an HP Spectre, so I have a Windows computer, but it connects to my HP Spectre, and then I can connect an HDMI cable along with several USB ports. And so it's really handy for just putting everything into one space. And you'll kind of see that underneath here, I have some Velcro tabs that I added. I just bought a couple from Home Depot because I wanted them to sit in the space. Let me see if I can go back and show you what I mean by that. So notice right here how it's sitting nicely. Before that, it was kind of all over the place because every time I'd move the laptop, it would be moving too, and it was driving me nuts. Again, I am a type A. so so here we go. Michelle, happy Monday, girl. Yes, yes, yes. And Lakeisha, yeah, you need all of that. Well, I'm not going to say you need it all. I'm going to say these were handy tools that helped me to organize. So do what works. Do what works for you, keeping in mind those 3 things: purpose, budget, and resources. Love having 2 monitors. Yes, ma'am, Miss Candace, because I do too. I feel like I can get so much more done. So this is pretty much my setup. And one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this, oh, there's one more thing I need to show you for organization. So the monitor thing, remember I mentioned that? So another thing that was really bugging the heck out of me was this right here. So the monitor was sitting on my desk and it was taking up all this space. And so every time I knock, because again, this is kind of like an inexpensive desk, it's $59. So what was happening is every time I would knock my knee or do anything with the desk, if I just move near the desk, it was moving the monitor, like the monitor was shaking like this. That was bugging the heck out of me. So I ended up 2 things were happening. That, but also it was taking up way too much space because you know how the base is usually really wide. So I ended up buying this arm for 35 bucks on Amazon. Now, mind you, did I do all this stuff in the same day? No. What I did is, as I was doing my work and doing my videos, I started thinking through, okay, that seems to be an issue. Let me mark that off for something I need to research, right? Let me make sure I budget for that item too. I don't want to go over X amount. So I'm trying to get you to adopt the thinking process. Don't just go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff and then you have like this big pile on your floor. Instead, think through tactically what it is you're really needing in order to get those videos done and to do it in a way where you're super organized. So the question I saw about, yeah, you were going to ask me about that arm. Yeah, so I can actually move the monitor back and forth. I can move it, make it closer to myself, which I really don't want to do. Move it further away, move it to the side, move it. It's really handy. And I actually have the name for that one too. That one is an ELE-tab, ELE tab single monitor stand. Now, when you're thinking about monitor stands, what you want to make sure you watch for is the connection. So in the back of your monitor, I think it's called Vesta or something. There's something that starts with a V. You'll see this. When you buy the monitor stand, you want to make sure that the connector that it has is going to be able to fit the back of your monitor. So you want to double check and match up, right? The dimensions, or else you'll be sending that sucker back. And nobody wants to send stuff back right now. All right. Did you buy all of these before beginning your recordings? So I kind of answered that question, but I'm glad you asked that, Jakara, because here's the thing that I don't want you to do. Thinking process, right? This is what I'm teaching is the thought process. So don't think so much about the aesthetics of what I'm telling you I bought. Think more about the thought process and the strategy, because that's what I teach is strategy. I want you to understand and realize that this is not intended to pause or keep you paralyzed from doing your videos. The goal is to get the videos out. The goal is to get on camera, to build your confidence, build your experience, to keep going so that people get to hear your message. They need you. So do not let the stuff hamper the message. Okay. The reason why I'm sharing these things and why it was over time, so great question, Jakara. The reason why it was over time is because the more confident I got, the more comfortable I became on camera, the more I started realizing there were little small, tiny tweaks that I could make to different things, right? So, literally, with this arm, for instance, I just got that a couple of days ago. I've been video recording for a long time. Now, mind you, in terms of the studio setup, that's been, I don't know, maybe about a month and a half or so now that that's been set up. I was working on pieces and not quite showing it until I was ready for it to show. So, did you see my questions? I see your questions right now, Michelle. I don't know if you left some questions for me today on the live, but I'll scan through here in a second. Please do another video connecting the DSLR. Yes, ma'am. I got you covered. So these are all things, hopefully, that are helping you to just kind of have that thought process, right? About how to put yourself in a position for success when it comes to doing videos. Oh, this is the other thing. So remember, I mentioned that the last thing was resources. So purpose, budget, resources. Those are the three, right? The three things. What you will want to definitely do is to think about existing resources. What do you have already in your possession? Okay. So I had this old chair. You can't tell that it's that old, except for the fact that if I had this blue cover off of it, it looks really raggedy. Like it's real old, but it's super comfortable and I love it. Like it's right for me. So instead of buying a whole new chair, which could be a couple more $100s, I decided to find a seat cover. So again, thought process behind that is use what you have and find a less expensive way to pour money into the setup of your studio. Because the ultimate goal is that you want to create a space to be able to support you in continuing to go on camera. Not necessarily taking this journey of going and finding all these different things and shopping, which many of us love to do. Um, that's not the point. The point isn't the shopping. The point is making sure that you're creating a space where you're going to be more productive, right? And you're going to do more video. So, again, the reminder is purpose, budget, resources. Purpose, budget, resources. These are the three keys to making sure that you are setting up for success behind the scenes, behind the camera, not just in front of the camera. So I'm checking to see if I have any questions. Michelle, I have to check in with you on that later. Let me see. Yep, several people are saying the DSLR, they want to know more about that. Awesome sauce. If you are new to watching, definitely make sure that you let me know that you're here and it's your first time. I'm excited to see you and thankful. Let's see, a couple of questions. Do you edit, do your own videos? And two, where do you get most of your B roll? Okay, great question. So let me share this with you because I want you to have a really clear answer on this from me to you. This is from my heart to yours. There are a lot of video masters and experts and gurus that teach about doing professional videography and doing editing and doing B rolls. And while I can do that, I choose not to necessarily do that. And here's why. What I was doing probably about a year or so ago when I first started doing my lives every week is I was learning all these advanced techniques and I was buying a bunch of software that was super advanced, like vMix, right? Which I do love. I think it's a great program. It's very professional, but it's got a huge learning curve. But because I'm teaching video and I'm teaching people that anybody who is a service provider can use video in their entire marketing strategy, like use it as part of your marketing strategy, not the whole strategy. It's not the strategy, it's part of that. I want your focus to be on being the best service provider you can be. And so, what I tend to teach people is I move away or steer away from some of the more advanced things because I know there's a lot of other people that can teach that, like my friend Lou Bortone and my friend Luria Petrucci over at Live Streaming Pros. They teach that stuff. What I'm trying to do is to work with my folks who simply want to be able to use camera to get their message across and to serve more people as a service provider. So I want you to be a better service provider, not a better videographer. And that's the only reason why I don't really get into a whole lot of detail about editing and all that other stuff. I give more strategy. Now, if I were to do more teaching around B rolls and editing, one of the pieces of advice I would give you is that the more confident and comfortable you get on camera and the more you start seeing that you're consistent with creating content to put on camera, absolutely look for ways to outsource some of that type of work. So I actually right now am looking to outsource more of that type of more advanced work because I don't want to focus on that. I want to teach, I want to do coaching. I love doing my one on one VIP days and helping people get completely set up in a single day for their video strategy. I have a course that's coming up where we're going to spend 4 hours, actually 3 hours plus one later on to do repurposing. I love teaching webinars and training, so I won't make the time for editing and B rolls because I want to be more of a trainer, coach, and strategist. So I hope that answers the question, even though it was kind of long winded. All right. Um, Anthony said LaFerd had to get a little bit snazzy. Of course she did. All righty, folks. Well, I think it's about time to wrap because I don't see any other additional questions. And there I see Michelle. Okay. Connie, thank you for joining. Jakara, Lakeisha, Candace, Araceli, Stacy, Erica, everybody, Pat, Jackie, Tracy, Crystal, Anthony, Connie again, Shabaka, Donna, Erica, Natalia. Thank you so much for joining. Nicolette as well, if you're here live. But I will see you all on next week. Let me just end with this and make sure that I show that if you would like to receive reminders and updates before we go live, like about 5 to 10 minutes before we go live, simply type remind me. If you're in Facebook, you can type remind me and you should receive a message from me shortly. And I want to invite each and every one of you, if you're not already part of the group, because my group members are watching. If you're not part of the group, definitely go over to Get Noticed with Video VIPs in Facebook. This is my group, and our community is going to have some really interesting and amazing stuff that's going to help you to grow your business, both mentally as well as, with the physical setup when it comes to video. So, super excited about that. And then the final thing I'll leave you with is that I will always be here as long as God wills, every week live because I've committed to doing that so that I can teach and train and share. I will see you on next Monday with our next topic. And if you have questions, if there's something that you really want to know more about, leave that for me and let me know. Thank you, Marcy. I appreciate it. Yes, because it helps me to create content that's really going to suit you if you let me know what it is you need to learn, right? So I look forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments, and I will see you on next Monday. Take care.